Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom McCarthy. Tommy, how are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing great right now. I'll tell you, the only thing that I'm really upset about is the Phillies season ended. And obviously, you were there with the team, throughout everything. So tell me about the experience.
Well, I mean, it was a great experience, obviously, to see this team come back the way they did. I mean, the biggest disappointment is that they couldn't finish it, and the team that beat them went on to win the championship, because I still think that the Phillies were the better team going in, and the Giants just played better. And they kind of showed that against the Rangers, too. So I'm optimistic for 2011 that they'll be able to turn it around. They have some changes that they're probably going to have to undertake, and hopefully those changes will, provide a spark, because you always try to go into it looking positive. But I thought they were still the best team going in, and they just didn't play well in the end, and that happens.
Well, Tommy, I'll tell you, I haven't had you on since, I guess, before the 2008 run. So in the last 3 years, as a whole experience, how great was it to be there the night they win the World Series and your first year with the Phils?
That was unbelievable. I mean, it really was. I mean, it was this whole experience to be able to do this was just fantastic. I mean, it was more than I could have ever imagined. I'm thankful every single day. I mean, it's just it was just unbelievable to be part of it. And I still think there's a lot more to come. I don't think that they're done in any stretch. I think this will continue to be the greatest era of Phillies baseball, even beyond this.
And Tommy, I'll tell you, on Saturday, being down there before the game, that place was electric out there. Throughout the season, I even noted you took in a game in the crowd there. You're out in the seat taking a game in, and you told me even up close and personal. You said, this place is rocking like unreal.
Well, it is to me. It's the best ballpark in the league. I mean, and it always has been. I mean, it's just it just has this energy to it that is absolutely unbelievable, and it's something that I hope continues. I think it's going to continue. It's just been because there's a magic to it. It's a place to be, and that to me is something that you just can't match. It's something that you just can't obviously. It just has to happen, and that's what is happening. Is that it's just becoming the place to be in Philadelphia. I mean, Mike, just being around it and just seeing what it's like on a daily basis, it's just a place to be in Philadelphia, and it's just, it's unbelievable to be part of it.
Exactly, and me going on 11 years. I mean, my first year coming into the place, obviously, was it was a team that was in I guess a rebuilding mode, because
sure.
The vet, it was a disaster. I mean, night after night, you would watch a team that had basically B-type players. It was all backup starting for the team, and the pitching wasn't there. And watching this thing grow over the last 11 years has been amazing. And this year, though, I at the point when the home run off the bat of Uribe left the ballpark, and I just was like, I yelled out, no, no, no.
Yeah. And, I don't think you were alone in that one. I think there are a lot of people feeling the same way. I know when it left the bat, I'm thinking, that's not going to go out. Oh my gosh, that's going to go out. I mean, it's it's just it was a different feeling to see that happen. I mean, it was a shame. It was a shame.
And Tom, being around the players, can you tell me, is there anything going on as far as injury-wise with Chase Utley, especially? Because I watched him play, and even watching the numbers decline dramatically. He's coming off an injury, of course, earlier in the summer. But is there something wrong with Chase Utley that we don't know about?
Mike, I don't think so. I mean, people ask me that all the time about whether he was playing hurt, and I'm sure he was banged up. But I don't think it was anything that was slowing him down. Maybe it was nagging, but I just think it was just one of those things. I think he'll be fine. I think it's going to do him some good to have the rest. But I don't think he was hurt. I think he was just I don't know. I think he was just in a rut, and it's a shame that it happened when it did. But I just think that he was in a rut. I think he's going to be fine. I mean, if there was ever anything, God forbid, we would have heard it by now. I mean, he would have had some kind of procedure or something like that. But I just think he may have been banged up. I think he was sort of caught in a slump and just couldn't get out of it, and that happens, unfortunately.
Now, as far as going forward, what do you think needs to be done to make this team better offensively in key situations? Meaning, like last year in the World Series, the bat slumped in the World Series last year against the New York Yankees. Now this year, slumping against the San Francisco Giants. Was it all about the pitching, or is there more to it?
Well, I think that the Giants' pitching was a big deal. I really do. But I think that if you look back the way things went, the Phillies just didn't play well, and again, that happens, and it's unfortunate that it happens the way it is, but it does. I mean, it happens, and that to me was the biggest thing more than anything else, is that they just didn't play well in the postseason, in that round of postseason. So, I think they'll overcome it. I mean, I'm hoping that they do. I think that the thing about the Giants is that they played exceptionally well. They were smart. They had some great at bats, and I just think it was one of those things that they just played better at that time.
So now the next question is, what do you have planned for your off season? What any other major TV appearances or anything to tell us about?
Well, I did a football game this past Saturday. I did the Navy-Duke game on TV, and then on Sunday I was in Cincinnati doing the Bengals and the Dolphins on radio. And then this weekend I go to Seattle to do the Giants and the Seahawks on radio. And then I've got some more college football games on TV and some more NFL games on radio. So, I've got a lot going on. I mean, it's enjoyable. I wish I was doing baseball all the time, but it gives me a chance to sort of rejuice a little bit during this off season.
Are you still with the St. Joe's basketball team?
I'll be doing some of their games on TV. I won't be doing radio anymore. I decided to cut back on that just because not that I couldn't do it. It's just that I'm coaching the school basketball team in my area, so that takes a lot of my time, and I want to make sure I can do that. And because I'm doing so many games on TV, college basketball games, I just couldn't fit them in anymore, unfortunately. But, they got a great kid by the name of Matt Martucci who took over, and, they're in good hands, and they're going to be a pretty good team this year, I think.
There you go. So now here's the other thing now. As far as the Eagles, I want to ask you this question. Have you been watching their games, and what do you think? What do you think is going to happen there with the quarterback storyline?
Well, I mean, I think that I think the way the offensive line is, I think Cox played well, honestly, and I think he is the guy in the future. I really do. I don't think there's any question about that. I do think that Vic will give them a chance to to maybe get themselves get a little more mobility, get a little more speed, get away from the defensive pressure a little bit more. I think they'll be fine. I mean, I think the Redskins are an aberration. I think the Cowboys are done. I do think the Giants are rising. I think their game this week against the Seahawks is a big one for the Eagles to see if the Giants can win that one. But I think the Eagles are going to be in good shape. I think they're going to want to get into the postseason, and we'll see what happens after that.
Okay, now I have a couple free agent signings that I think would help the team, and I want your opinion on. The first one being a New York Met relief pitcher, Pedro Feliciano, I think, up from the left side.
Well, I think you're right about that, Mike. I do think that he could help. The only thing is that I think Pedro at this point is going to, get himself a pretty good chunk of change. And that's the only thing you have to sort of shield yourself with. Can the Phillies fit him in, at what he's going to ask for? And I think he's going to ask for a pretty good amount. I mean, he's at the point now in his career where he's, 80, 81, 85 appearances. He's been a huge asset from the left side for the Mets. Can the Phillies put him in their payroll? That remains to be seen, but I think that he's I think a guy from the left side like that it would be huge. Now, some people wonder, Mike, if he's thrown so much over the last, few years, if, maybe he's not going to be as sharp as he was before. I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I think one of the big things, too, is, is how many years is he going to ask for? Sometimes when guys ask for 3 or 4 years, it's difficult to put, that contract together. So we'll see. I mean, he'd be a good one out there. There are a couple other lefties out there that could be helpful as well, but we'll see.
Tommy, I have a guest standing by on the line right now. Go ahead, Cole. You're on the air with Tom McCarthy.
Hey, Tommy. This is Jerry Horgan.
Jerry, what's up, buddy?
How you doing, Tommy?
Good.
Tommy, I'm feeling the pain still, man. I'm feeling painful. I mean, I'm hurting. I'm really hurting, Tommy. The Phillies losing to the Giants?
Yeah, well, that's it, Jared. Last night was the time that I was hurting just watching it because I really felt that it was, that was a chance for, just looking at it, I'm sitting there thinking, all right, well, the Phillies are, there's no question the Giants were a good team. They played well, but I still think if the Phillies got in there against Texas, then they would have done very well against them.
I think Texas batted below 200 as a team in the World Series. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was around that. I mean, I know the numbers were very similar to the Phillies numbers, Jer. And believe me, the Giants didn't hit all that well during the course of the postseason either. It's just that they were able to, do the things they needed to do at the right time.
Well, Tommy, I got to tell you, during the NLDS, the Braves-Giants series, I was praying for the Braves to win. Because, they had injuries. Chipper Jones, Prado was out, and Brooks Conrad makes those 3 errors in Game 3. If he doesn't do that, the Braves win, and it goes to a Game 5, and I'm praying for the Braves to win. You, Tommy, you know as well as I do, the Phillies would have beaten the Braves. We both know that.
Oh, I agree with that, Jerry. I mean, I think, I still look at it and think that they could have beaten the Giants too if they had played even a little better. So, but I agree with you. I mean, the Braves. One thing about the Phillies and the Braves, I think, because of the series at the end of the year, the Phillies kind of were in the Braves' head, and that's a big deal. I think when it comes to this point in the season too.
Oh, that week in September, I think the first game was September 20th. The Phillies beat the crap. I mean, beat the hell out of the Braves. Yeah. No, it was a good series. That's where I thought, okay, that we had stepped it up, and we're going to be a formidable team in the postseason. Yeah, that was the one close game. It was Tommy Hansen pitched a great game, but he lost.
Oh, sure.
He lost.
But that's the thing. I mean, I think that the Phillies are a team that can easily play a tight game with the team and be able to pull it out. It's just unfortunate that they weren't able to do it against the Giants.
Yeah, I'm hurting, Tommy. But you know what, though? My worst loss ever in my lifetime, it was not the Joe Carter home run. It was on Black Friday, October 7th, 1977, 33 years ago. Well, I guess you were 9 years old. You're 42 now, right, Tommy? I guess you were 9 back in 1977. I guess you were about 9 years old.
I was 9 years old in 77.
I was 19, and I'm sure you've heard all the details about how the Phillies lost that Game 3 to the Dodgers.
Oh, very much so.
I was right there. I have it on videotape, Tommy. If I go into the details, I'll start crying. that was my worst loss ever, Tommy. The Joe Carter home run, I can accept that. I hurt for a while, but I can accept it. The Giants loss, okay, I'll get over it by Christmas. But that Dodger loss, when it was a best out of 5 format back then, too.
Yeah, those were tight games. I mean, Davey Lopes was talking about those, obviously because he was part of that Dodgers team and part of that victory. It was tougher back then, I think, because you needed to play. I mean, some people think it was easier back then. Obviously, some people think it was harder back then. I think when it can get harder if it starts to snowball out of control, and that's what happened in the last couple of games in '77.
And Gene Garber was pitching for the Phillies in the 9th inning, and there's Tommy. I'm sure you know it as well as I do. The Dodgers had 2 outs and no one on base, and the Phillies had a 2-1 lead. And all these weird things started happening. Like I say, I don't want to get into all the details, because if I do, I'll start crying, man, And it hurt me. It still hurts today. I'll never, ever get over that loss, Tommy,
Yeah.
But one thing, Tommy, I'm sure you've heard the rumors. I think Jim Salisbury had started it, that there is a chance that the Phillies may get Cliff Lee back next year, Here's what they do.
I did read the story, Jerry. I think a lot has to happen for that to happen.
Nothing's out of the realm of possibility, but a lot does have to happen in order for that to take place. And, if they were lucky enough to add him, he's a wonderful pitcher. He'd be a huge asset, and they'd have a pitching staff for the ages, to be quite honest with you.
Well, if they did that, Tommy, they'd be called the Four Aces. Remember that group, that group back in the 60s?
Yeah.
They called them the Four Aces. That'd be like the Four Aces, man. Here's what you do, Tommy. Joe Blanton's making $8 million a year. Try to get rid of him. Unload his contract if anybody wants him. Raul Ibanez has 1 year left. Try to ship him up to the American League. He can play over there. And you try to drop salary all you can offensively. But pitching is what wins, as the Giants just proved. You would have Roy Halladay, Roy Oswalt, Cole Hamels, and Cliff Lee. Tommy, we can't lose with that staff, No matter how bad the offense, the offense might be a little bit off, but Dominic Brown and Francisco can platoon in right field, and if we score 3-4 runs a game with those four aces, we can still win,
Well, I think that that's the only thing that would ever concern me is that what would the offense be? But as you said, if you have those four guys, you have pieces that you can put in there. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm interested to see what they do. This is always a fun time of the year, particularly when you're as good as the Phillies are, just to see how they try to make themselves even better.
Well, Tommy, here's one more question for you. The Phillies are looking for a new first base coach after letting Davey Lopes go because of a contract dispute. Who do you think they're going to get?
Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on what they feel like their needs are. Do they need to get an outfield instructor and a base running instructor all in one? That's the big deal. I mean, people have talked about Juan Samuel and Mariano Duncan. Samuel would be good because of his base stealing ability. He obviously didn't play the outfield till the end of his career. It's interesting. I think Davey is one of the best coaches in the game. I hope he's able to find himself a job. I think he will. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of early in the process to see because, there's some reports that, that Pete Maccannon's name has popped up for other managerial jobs. So, I think a lot will depend on, what happens with Pete and his future. So it'll be interesting. I mean, they certainly have people that they can turn to, but I'm just not sure at this point who it would be.
How about Larry Boa? Is there any chance of him rejoining the team?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's interesting. Somebody brought that up today. I think it would all depend on what his responsibilities would be. I don't know. I mean, it's like I said, it's a little early to tell. I was disappointed that Davey was leaving, but I think it's a little early to tell right now who it's going to be.
Okay. Well, Jerry, you have anything else for Tommy before we?
Yeah, Tommy. I just want to tell you one more thing, pal. Of course, I loved Harry Kalas like a father. I mean, when he died that day in Washington, I cried like a baby all day. That was the only time in my entire life that I watched a Phillies game and I didn't care who won or lost because I loved Harry. And let me tell you, Tommy, I loved when Harry was doing the games and you were moving around the ballpark. I loved your reports. I love that, But you and the Sarge and Wheels, I must be the only guy in the world that likes Wheeler because I like Wheels. But you guys have a good, good thing going. But I did love you when Harry was still with us, and you would do these special reports throughout the ballpark. I love that. But you do a great job.
I appreciate that, Jerry. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that we don't wish he was there, and
I know.
It's even with these games, you always want to hear how he would have called it because he was so special.
Oh my God! Especially the Roy Halladay perfect game and the no hitter and the I always my first thought that perfect game on May 29th in Miami, Florida, and the no hitter against the Reds in the playoffs. My first thought when those games ended was, I wonder what Harry would have said. That's what came to my mind immediately.
I thought the same thing, and in fact, even when we were doing the game, I always went back to what he used to tell me about, whether you say it's a perfect game, whether you say it's a no-hitter, and he always said you do. You always tell the story, and so he was there with me as I was doing the game, and that, but I thought the same thing, Jerry, after it was over. I said, I wonder what Harry would have said at the end of this, and,
I know.
honestly, there's not a big call that goes by that I don't think that.
Let me tell you, I think the same way, Tommy, and I got to tell you, I love Harry. I love you, your younger brother that I never had,
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Jared. And, Mike, I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again soon.
Tommy, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again for taking your time out tonight, and have a great holiday season. And we'll probably look to talk to you hopefully in the new year. And it was great having you again, Tommy. It's been a while, and thanks again so much. It was nice.
All right, guys.
Tonight, buddy. Take care.
Have a great night.
Folks. Thanks, Tom. Take care. All right, here you go. Tom McCarthy checking in. Jerry, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
That was great, wasn't it? Tom McCarthy does come through. You know what he told me, Jerry? The phone was downstairs.